what does being a hybrid athlete mean to me? Initially it means you have all these different types of versatility. You have your running, you have your cycling, you could have your swimming. Obviously, all of those make up a triathlon. Maybe you're just doing swimming, maybe you're just doing the biking, maybe you're just doing the running, but then also incorporating some sort of strength training in there. Where initially, when I was only doing the strength training, that was really nice, but I felt as though I wasn't pushing my boundaries. I had been working out and doing strength training for quite a while now, and I've become accustomed to that. I had that routine built out there, and it wasn't until I started running, and then it was swimming, and then it was cycling or biking, whatever you want to call it. That's when I really started to push myself outside my comfort zone, where I knew the exact drive that I was going to be taking every single morning to get to the gym. I wake up at the same exact time, where now I'm throwing in these additional disciplines into my day. Okay, am I going to be running, right after I get back from the gym because it's going to be 90 degrees and humid out, or is it going to be very cold out, or do I have meetings later in the day and I can't go out for a run at 5 o'clock? What do we have going on in the day? And then now we have to throw in the swimming and the cycling, and there's only so many hours in the day when you're working and when you have a family to get all of this done. So now you're really pushing yourself to make sure that you get it done. And I mean, there would be times where when I was training for this particular triathlon, and again, it was my first one just doing a sprint, but wanting to push myself, wanting to make myself uncomfortable, where if I had 30 minutes on a Friday afternoon, I would hop in the pool as quickly as I could and then get a 30 minutes in. And same thing over the weekend if I had some time on a Sunday, if I had some time during the week. But what I mean by that is I was disciplined within it. That I knew I had to do the swimming on Friday, so whenever I could find that free chunk of time, that's when I would go out and I would get it done. Same thing on Sunday. Sometimes Sunday mornings would be busy, a lot going on in the house, and then now I'm finding myself at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, and I know I have a big week of strength training coming up that now I have to hop in the pool and I have to start swimming. And again, that's going to make me super uncomfortable and that's going to be pushing my boundaries. Another aspect that I like in what hybrid athlete training means to me is having that physical and mental resilience. There's times where I just don't feel like running. I don't feel like swimming. I don't feel like hopping on a bike. There's been times where you're just not feeling that great. There's times where I've been sick for a few days and then I go back into it and it's just notoriously hard. To give you an example, I had been sick for a few days with a stomach bug and decided I'm going to go out and just kickstart my running again. I hadn't done any strength training for a few days. I just wasn't feeling 100%, but I wanted to start to kick gear into running, and I was just going to do like a 3 mile run. Just something super simple, at least for me, and go out to do this run, and it's like middle of the day. It's like, I believe it was a Saturday. It was like 1 o'clock. It was like 90, 95 degrees, and it was like 90% humidity. And for some reason in my mind, 3 miles, I was like, oh, like that's fine. Like that's not going to be that hard. I'm not going to worry about wearing my watch at the time. I actually think it was broken, so I couldn't track how many miles I was doing. But I know the 3 mile route. I didn't have to bring any water. I wasn't going to bring my headphones. It was just going to be me and the pavement, and that's all I was going to do. And it was just incredibly hard. I remember like the last half mile, it might as well have been like running a marathon with how difficult it was. But that's because I knew that I had that discipline. And then once I'm done with the run, I'm like, that was easy. I think anyone that runs, that they can also consider that, like, once you push yourself out there, over time, you're going to start to build this physical and your mental resilience. And what I really like about the hybrid athlete training aspect is that I'm constantly conditioning my body to adapt to different forms of stress by enhancing my endurance, strength, and agility. And especially when it comes to all these different aspects of it, and I know you just talked about, me pushing through that discomfort, but there's times where you're fatigued, where I don't want to get up. And to give you an example, like last Friday, I went out to dinner with the family and just very sore from a long week of working out. But I know Saturdays on my long runs in the morning, I like to get up, where usually I'm running like later in the day. I have food in my stomach, and just makes, honestly, for me, it makes it a little bit harder to run, so I like to get up Saturday mornings, get up nice and early, where all I wanted to do was sleep in, but got up, got the shoes on, got out the door, did the run, came back and felt so much better because of it. But that's just the running aspect of it. But for me, when it came to this hybrid athlete training, it was really putting different forms of stress on my body when it specifically came to the swimming and the biking. And again, whether you're just doing the running, but for the swimming for me, is I had known that I could swim before, but when it came to actually participating and trying to swim for like a long duration of time, it was increasingly difficult. And same thing with biking. I was like, oh, I could go out and bike 10, 15 miles, no problem. And I'm like struggling early on in the beginning to get to like the 6 mile mark. And I'm like, I know I can do more than this. It's just significantly hard right now. I'm just not used to it. Different parts of my body that I haven't used so much are now, really hurting me. And it is super uncomfortable. I'm like, I gotta go do a hour, 30-minute workout in the pool, and I'm just not in the mood to do it. Maybe my back is sore, maybe my lats are sore. Now I have to go through and do the swim workout, which is just going to put more pressure on that body part. But I know at the same time that like if I'm doing this triathlon and I can hypothetically, if I'm biking, I could stop for a second. If I am swimming or if I'm running, I could pause for a second. Not that I would want to do that, but when it comes to the swimming aspect of it, like I'm afraid that if I stop swimming, I'm just gonna drown. Obviously, my confidence, I'm not gonna have that happen. I mean, even if the worst case scenario, something did happen, there's people watching you really doing the triathlon and swimming. And for me, I was swimming in my backyard pool. It was 25 meters, so going about 50 meters a lap. And then I felt totally comfortable in case something happened. And of course, during the race, I felt this cramping in my toe, and I was just struggling with the swimming. It was a lot harder, and I'll get into it in a different episode. But just knowing all that preparation, all that discomfort, all that fatigue that I put on my body was worth it, because initially I had strength trained for 5 days a week, and then I wasn't doing anything on Saturday or Sunday. And then I started to incorporate running Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and that was good. And then I started to increase it more to do the swimming and biking. And now I'm adding an extra day of specifically swimming, because I know like I got to get this swimming down. That's the area where I felt as though I lacked the most. Where again, if I can't swim, like, and I get a DNF, it doesn't matter how good I'm doing biking. It doesn't matter how good I am doing running. You're just getting a DNF, and I'm getting pulled out of there. So I had to push myself through that discomfort and that fatigue when it came to the running aspect of the race. And I think for any hybrid athlete, especially if you're doing double sessions a day, or if you're doing weight training and then you're going out there and running, or you're going out there and swimming, you're going to experience that discomfort. You're going to get that little voice in your mind that's like, maybe let's just take it off, or we're definitely a little sore. You're going to have that fatigue. And I think that's understandable. I think that's something that everyone is going to have when you're going out there and trying to be this hybrid athlete. And specifically, like for me, that's like every single Wednesday, it's just a mental grind. For Wednesdays, for me, are the day that I go out and I do leg day at the gym. And then later in the day, I'm going to go do a run. But on Wednesdays, I like to do my tempo run. That's just the way that I've structured it. So now I might run a mile at like my normal pace, and I might run the next mile at a faster pace. And then I just rotate, and right now I'll go about 6 miles at that. And to be honest, it's about a mile warm up, and then 4 miles in between of doing that. So it's only looking 2 miles hard, but that absolutely kills my quads. And I know that I'm going to be sore after I do this workout. And yes, I'm going to try to have the proper nutrition and everything that's part of that with me, but I know that I'm going to be experiencing that discomfort and that fatigue and everything that goes along with it. Another aspect that I like to consider when it comes to the hybrid athlete training is just the continuous growth that you have. For me, it was learning different aspects in the gym when it came to strength training, learning new exercises that I hadn't really even considered before. And then obviously the disciplines of running, where it's like, okay, like I'm running a mile now, but obviously I know I want to be running further. I know how to swim, but now I'm really struggling in the pool. Same thing with biking. I know how to bike, but I'm having a hard time biking, and now I have to learn all these new abilities and these techniques. And part of the part of the process that I had on the continuous growth, and it was on a smaller scale, and it was experiencing that, I would say so much the fatigue aspect of it, but the discomfort aspect of it, where initially I knew that I was going to want to run this triathlon. I had it in my head that I was going to be doing this. I knew I was going to be doing it, but I wanted to get that race experience. So I just signed up for like a local 5K just to get that racing experience, to see what that felt like as I was starting that, my running process. And I think there was like 30 or 40 people signed up. So it was very, very small. I ended up doing another one about a month later with about, I think there was like 300 or 400 people that did it. So obviously a little bit bigger, but I wanted to continue to push myself up outside my boundaries and then learn exactly what to do. And this can even go back to doing the triathlon, where I have no idea how to set up a transition zone. Like, what do I need? Like, what do I need for the hydration? Do I need snacks? I mean, all I had was like electrolytes in a bottle, and honestly, I forgot to bring water. And I don't think there's many aid stations, so I just had my bottle. I just had the powder in the bottle and no water. So I ran the entire 2-hour triathlon without drinking any water. I had a couple of gels that I had and some honey stingers. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm feeling properly, but I know that I was gonna learn and see how my body felt from that. And then even like not having a race belt, so I had a shirt that I brought with me to change into after the race was over, and so I had to wear that shirt to finish off the race, to pin the bib to it instead of having a race belt where you could pin the race bib to it. And just like learning little things like that, like, okay, like how am I going to transition from the swimming to the biking, and then from the biking to the running, like what's that going to look like? And I had no idea. I honestly had never done all three disciplines one after another at any part of my training. I would always stick to running one day, and then I would stick to biking and swimming on the other day, just for the time crunch that I would have. So it forced me to learn these new techniques. And then now that like you start to learn these things, and I just want to start off and do these smaller races just to get my footing down, like just to experience what it felt like. Now I know that I want to break my PRs that I have, my personal records. So I'm like, okay, I did this sprint triathlon in about 2 hours. My swim was about like 23 minutes. My biking was about an hour, and my running was like 30 minutes or so. And I'm like, I know I can improve on all of those. And then based on that, I can go back and like, okay, I want to get my running faster. So now I'm going to adjust that weakness, and I'm going to start doing these tempo runs to try to make myself faster throughout running. When it came to swimming, where I struggled with was doing the sighting. So what that means is, let's say the buoy was off to your left, I would swim off to the right, not knowing where I was going, and then I would look up and see I have to swim all the way back to the left. So instead of having like a 750-meter swim, I almost swam it as if it was like a 1,300 meter swim. So I was almost doing double the amount of swim that I had to do, because I just was very bad at sighting. So I'm like, how can I get better at sighting? I'm in my pool. Obviously that's simple. I can go around in circles. So for me, that was like joining a triathlon club where they have open water swim where I can train with other people. So it was forcing to adjust that weakness. Then when it came to biking, it was okay, like how can I get more time on the bike, but how can I spend that more time around my family? Because if I'm spending like 30, 45 minutes, an hour swimming, now my daughter's home from daycare, now I want to go out and do like an hour and a half bike ride. Like, I want to be able to see her. So that transitioned into, and I wouldn't say it's so much of a weakness, but like buying a smart bike trainer where I can throw it in my garage. I can open up the garage door and I can just start bike riding, where she can see me when she comes home from daycare. And that really brings me to my last point of really what hybrid athlete training means to me. And it's just being that role model to my daughter, to share with her the healthy and active lifestyle. And I want to share with her like that I was not a runner. I had done some sort of cardio in the past, but I hadn't been doing it for a very long time. And right now, just been doing these 5Ks, where in the future I'm looking to do this year a half marathon and a marathon, and then next year looking to do a 70.3 Ironman, half Ironman, and then maybe throw another triathlon in the month of August. I wanted to be that role model with her, to be like, hey, like doing these triathlons, like they were super uncomfortable. Like there was so much training that went into them that I want you to know like that you can do anything that you want to do, even if you're super uncomfortable on your end. So I just want her to understand everything that's going on, and I want to show her that again, I'm not a runner, but I wasn't a runner, but now I could become a runner. I wasn't someone that competitively swam, and now I am. And now I wasn't someone that competitively biked, but now I am. And I have all these disciplines. And yes, she's only 13 months old at the moment, but I want to show with her like when she comes home from daycare and she sees me riding on the bike, or she sees me coming back from a run, or she sees me swimming in the pool. And right now, I don't know the effect that that's going to have on her, but my guess is that the more I do it, the more as she grows older, she can attend more of my races. She attended the triathlon. Again, she's 13 months. My anticipation is that she doesn't know anything about what's going on, but I want her to have these memories of me going out there and training so that she can think to herself, like, okay, like, this is what my father did. He pushed himself. He had this discipline, and that's what I want to have. And that's really what I want to instill on her. And that's really part of the reason behind this whole podcast, being the hybrid athlete dad, is what are the values that we're going to be sharing with our kids? Like, what do we want to be showing to them? And then when it comes to being that hybrid athlete dad, and again, whether you're a dad or your mom, like, how how do you balance your training with your responsibilities? So I specifically want to teach our daughter the lessons in like time management. Like there's only so many hours in a day. And then how do you have the patience? Like when I'm running the race and my sighting's poor or the training session isn't going well, like to give you an example, I'm swimming in the pool, getting water in my goggles just over and over and over, and I'm constantly having to stop. And I just want to swim a mile or over a mile. I want to swim about 2,000 meters in the pool, and I'm just constantly getting water in my eyes, and it's just super frustrating. Maybe my cap's falling off. I'm getting water in my ear, and I can feel it. And it's like, okay, like, can I just stop for a second? Can I control my mind? Can I have this patience? And that's what I want to show to her. And then the importance of the self care, where it's not just doing this hybrid athlete training where I'm going out there and I'm doing the strength training and then I'm doing these additional forms of endurance. It's like also that nutrition aspect of it where I'm taking care of my body. I'm taking supplements that I believe that are going to be helping me, such as like creatine and your block chain amino acids. It's having a high protein diet. It's taking a look at my macros. It's just making sure that if I'm doing all this training, I'm rewarding my body with what it needs to sustain everything. So sharing her so that way she can see my journey of the self care that I'm taking. But that's really the discipline of what being a hybrid athlete dad means to me.